Good morning, everybody. John Spielke here for GAI Insights with the team of Luda, Tim, Adam, and Paul. Going to look at the Gen AI news in terms of what's essential, what's important, or what is optional. Today we've got 6 interesting articles, everything from a new HP article we just published through the use of generative AI in reinsurance. Some interesting information from RAMP, the folks who do expense tracking to see where AI is going, a new model from a little startup called Genie on a Y Combinator, and other things. So, good morning, everybody. All right. Here, let me introduce our article that this is our article from Harvard Business Review that was published back in August 8th, how one major healthcare firm became a leader in the innovative use of AI. So I'm one of the authors on this thing, so I'm going to leave it to Adam to review. Adam.
Yeah, look, I actually hadn't read it yet. I know it's been published for a few days, so I'm glad we finally had it on the show. So I got it across my desk this evening. And I'd say hats off to all three of you. It's really a well-written article about a really great story. And I think you've done a phenomenal job of not just telling that story, but really laying out really clearly what like defined the success. Like I took it and I put it into GPT and I was like, just give me that list of like the 7 things, that Blue Cross playbook, that I could use if I was another company. And it's phenomenal. Like in terms of this is measured success, right? So I think it's essential reading, frankly, and I rated it as such. I know that you're all dear and close to me, but my honest assessment is that every enterprise leader could benefit from understanding what Blue Cross has done here, right? And it's not about that the article is essential reading, but understanding this story and understanding this use case is a blueprint. It is a playbook, and it's essential that they understand, even if they don't exactly use it, but they understand why these 7 things had the impact they did over there. So I think it's a great piece to put on people's desks.
But Luda, you got to keep us honest here. We are brutally critical of self-serving vendor articles. Isn't this just GAI running around, patting itself on the back? I mean,
I think it's Tim and me. Tim, do you want to venture an opinion?
Oh, sure.
Go ahead.
I think it's a good HBR article. And some of my best friends went to Harvard Business School. It is good. I don't know that I would call it essential, but it's good. And again, I've been the one who I've now created a lore around pockets and various things. So this is a good upper pocket, front pocket article, because Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan is a very large insurer. It's a complex business. So for that reason alone, a case study on Blue Cross Blue Shield using Gen AI is an important thing for leaders to be aware of. You really want to know about this one because it's a really good example as a case study. It's a case study, which is what Harvard likes to do, which is sort of pseudoscientific. So you have to be careful not to draw too many conclusions from it. It worked for this company, so I think it's worth reviewing. As Adam said, there are some good ideas here. Nothing earth-shattering. I mean, just straightforward. Yeah, you ought to keep your board informed. Some nice insights like the continuous nature of it, not just one and done, but really developing a relationship with your board and your key stakeholders around what this AI stuff is and keeping it ongoing at a regular basis. I think those are good ideas. I don't know that they're rocket science, but they're good ideas and a lot of people don't do them. So it's worth reading from that perspective. They're not in production, it sounds like. You guys can answer that. So again, the examples are a little weak because they're good in the sense that they're after this stuff and they're a very conservative, highly regulated organization. The proof's in the pudding when they really see the results, and it sounds a little early for that.
No, they are production.
Yeah, I'm with Tim. I think this highlights a lot of seven best practices that Kevin is asking whether they go across from and transfer generically to other businesses. Yeah, I think they do, and so it's an important article. I didn't go to essential just to avoid us, like Paul said, saying this is us and that's why it's essential. But I would rate it as important.
Yeah, and we have a question about how does it relate to Oscar Health, and the answer is it kind of doesn't.
What do you mean?
Well, I think Oscar Health's it's true. Oscar Health's in the health insurance business, but BCBS is an old standard Blue Cross, very large. Oscar Health is a relatively young, I think much smaller organization that doesn't have as many legacy skeletons they had to clean out of the closet to get moving. And that was another good thing that was part of this article, was that this company was not, you don't have to be a Silicon Valley startup to do this stuff. That was the best message I thought about this article.
Was it 1 or 1.5% margins? Like, yeah, very different kind of business.
Yeah. And the thing I liked, was so impressed with Bill. I mean, this is a company that had all the excuses not to go forward, Tim. We're
Exactly.
highly regulated.
Right.
We've got 1% margins. It's complicated, and they did anyway for a whole bunch of reasons. And they did it with a small team. So it's really, I'm so impressed with companies in production. Impressed me so much. In production of complex environments, I found very impressive.
Yeah.
Are the lessons, Kevin Petrie is saying, are the lessons applicable beyond healthcare? I think absolutely. In fact, that's the classic good side of an HBR article, is it's written with some case in mind, but it's generally quite applicable across a broad set of companies. And I would say that this is definitely applicable beyond healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the only other insight I really took away is it's also applicable beyond AI, right? They started this 7 years ago.
Sure.
This wasn't even part of their strategy when they developed it. But in some ways, that's exactly the point, right? That they have that ability to innovate and adapt and outperform in spite of all of these other things.
Yeah. So in spite of our opinions of the authors, we think it's an important article.
Yeah, I hear you, Tim. I mean, I think that you said that a case study isn't scientific. All science begins with cases.
It's true, absolutely true. I'm not arguing against case
Foundation of science. It's not
I'm just arguing against the use of case studies as science. And there's a confusion oftentimes in business schools in particular that you can really make deep conclusions from case studies. So I'm not saying that always happens, but I went to Sloan School, and boy, there was a lot of that going on there.
Look, just because you had some Sloan faculty that overclaimed from cases are the beginning of all scientific generalization.
I agree. There's observation, and careful reporting. Yeah. Anyway,
it talks about how you use cases scientifically, and that's what you do.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's look. What did Darwin start with? Cases, right? I mean,
right.
It's anyway. The bad use of cases doesn't mean cases are bad, right?
I agree.
Okay.
Be careful not to draw too many conclusions from the first case.
Yeah, sure. You don't overgeneralize the one piece of data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, but I don't know, guys. I mean, we picked it and we wrote it because we thought it was an essential thing for people to understand. And the other thing is that if I'm an AI leader and I want to give an example, this is a highly regulated business, has put this stuff in production. It's in the core of what they do. It's benefits, it's security. I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't argue with essential at that level. It's just I wouldn't argue with it. We can make it essential.
All right.
Yeah, but John, you have to look. We are put in a hot seat here. I think we should avoid. I understand that this is potentially an essential article, right? But we shouldn't be reviewing it. Let the readers decide then, because Tim and I and Adam are in the spot to give you an opinion that you disagree with, right? So we have a problem, and we're in the hot seat that we shouldn't be.
Well, yeah. We're not deciding whether what's her name's going to get the bronze medal, though. It's a minor issue.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I'm the one sending out the newsletter and updating the ratings page on the website. So I guess I'll be the ultimate arbitrator.
The ultimate stuff.
We leave it in your hands, Adam. Sounds good. All righty, next. Let's see. All right. We have Thomson Reuters unveiling its new product. Let's see here. Here. Present. Thomson Reuters unveiling its new Co-Counsel 2.0. And I think I had, who's on this one? We've got
I am.
Luda. What do you think?
I actually thought that this is an important article. They've worked quite hard on making it faster, making it more broader, and providing much deeper analysis than previously. So it is, and they're using different LLMs underneath, Google and OpenAI, and taking advantage of the longer window. But I think the impact industry that they are serving will be quite important. So I rate it as an important article.
All right, we got a vote for important here.
I thought it was important. This is a really great example of I don't know exactly what we want to call it, but in terms of this new architecture, right, with multi-model, whether you use Bayer's term of a compound system or whatever it is we land on in terms of trying to describe it. But this is a really great early example of that with using both OpenAI, Google Cloud, and their own proprietary in-house built model. And really identifying where it makes the most sense to use what to just have the best intelligence system. So I figured for that reason it was worth at least putting on the important pile.
I won't argue with important, but I really had it as optional. This is a product announcement. We don't generally give a lot of importance to product announcements unless it's unbelievable. I think for the legal sector, this is essential. But outside of the legal sector, this is a product announcement about a legal product. There's no data on how it actually works, how many people are using it. There's a couple of quotes of people who say it's great, but really no data on how well this thing works. So yes, interesting architecture, but I'm from Missouri on this one. Let's see how many people adopt it and how it really works in practice. If it does, it'd be phenomenal and very important. But right now, it's a product announcement.
Yeah, I was remember important is still optional in terms of reading, right?
I said I won't argue with important. Yep.
I think the reason I thought it was important is everybody's got legal issues, right? And this is one of the leading organizations, and whether you have inside counsel, outside counsel, every single organization has to buy legal services. So for me, that's why not essential, but it's important because everybody likes to understand, their suppliers. Just like I think productivity announcements by major software vendors should be at least important if they're credible, because everybody uses software. Anyway, I think there's more customization with law than there is with software. So anyway, I would give it an important. Paul, where are you on this?
Yeah, I'm an important. I mean, I think it's really interesting what's going on with companies in the crucible, and legals we've talked multiple times is absolutely in the crucible, and I've got it important in my mind.
All right, give this baby an important. Let's go to our next article, which is, let's see here. Sorry, a little slow on the article uptake here. Hiscox. Hiscox is a reinsurer and insurer. Actually, I got my business continuity insurance with our friends at Hiscox. So they're talking about how they are using LLMs to help them in their reinsurance activity. And on this one, I think I had
Tim.
Tim. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is important. Again, it's a good case study. They're in production in a complex task, which is reinsurance underwriting. And so for that reason alone, again, I think this is important. I wish there were more detail on what they were doing and how much. Again, I seek data, and there's not a huge amount of data in here. But, reinsurance underwriting is a really complex task. And if they have made progress in it, that is a good thing. And again, as an AI leader, you want to be aware, as I said this in January, this is the year of production. These are production applications now.
Yeah, what other folks think? Luda, what do you think?
I think it is important. See, this is in the crucible. It's in production. Not enough data, as Tim has said, but it's important for people to read it. And yet another case of application. So yeah, important.
Paul, where'd you land on this thing?
Important. Complicated business, highly risk averse in production. We still don't see that many companies actually in production. That really is separating the pilots from the real people.
But it's coming. We see more and more, and I think it's important for us to highlight it.
Yeah. Adam, where are you on this?
I felt it was fairly optional, but they make some good points. I'm not opposed to it getting an important rating, but it seemed like I guess maybe I didn't read deep enough into it in terms of the complexities, but it was just another use case of someone having it basically help write some emails based on internal data, which is what everyone should be using this stuff for, and that's great. But maybe it wasn't. I was a bit underwhelmed.
Yeah,
it has the feel of a little bit of a Google Cloud commercial, so there is that to it. So I won't argue, and that's the light on data stuff too, and just, hey, isn't Google Cloud great? But I think we're playing a little Adam inside baseball, because at least John and I have experience with reinsurance. It is complicated, and to be able to do, if they're really correct, and they can, yes, they're only sending an email to an underwriter, but if they have really gathered important information and given the underwriter pricing and a place to start, that is a big deal in reinsurance. That is not just like, send me a customer support email that I can send out.
Yeah, okay. That was between optional and important. Sounds like let's land on important for this one. Let's see. All right. So stop that guy. Now we are going to companies go all in on AI. We've got some very interesting new information from our friends at Ramp. The folks at Ramp do a tremendous amount of small to medium-sized business and some larger businesses in terms of managing, helping you control your expenses through Ramp Card and the Ramp software. So what do we think about this one? We have Adam on this.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating stuff what they can find in the spending data that they have on customers, and they have these 5 charts that point to really interesting metrics with the data to back it up. Some of them didn't really impress me. I think it's chart 4, which shows over the last 4 or 5 quarters the ground that Anthropic is gaining in terms of what percent of the market share. It's number 5 if you go up just a little bit above that one.
Yep.
It's just above that one.
Yeah, it's right there.
That one there.
That's
so that's there. Anthropic's market share, which has 4x'd over the last 3-4 quarters here in terms of what percent of the money spent on Ramp cards, within this sector is Anthropic spend. So it gives you an example of the type of data the insights they can pull out of this data. Some of them were more interesting than others. I was kind of on the fence in terms of optional or important. But I definitely enjoyed it, and it was an interesting read.
Yeah, and this chart here, fastest growing AI vendors.
by customer count, right? In terms of how many people pay for their subscriptions, like through Ramp. So I never really thought about the lens that Ramp can put on some of this stuff.
Yes.
It's a great commercial for them, certainly, but yeah, it was an interesting article.
I thought this was interesting too. The mean card spend with AI vendors going from
right. But what the point they're making there also is that card spend, as opposed to when people get annual subscriptions, card spend is usually the monthly. And that was going up was more an indication that people are continuing to experiment rather than commit to things with a deeper investment level. So some really interesting stuff. And I'm a data guy. So like when people are pulling insights out of the real hard data, I certainly love it. But how important are these 5 points to the AI leader? That's where I hesitate to say, I put it on their reading list.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I actually think it's important or maybe essential. Remember, if it's the top back pocket information from a lot of data on the real usage. So if you are in front of the board arguing to up the budget for your AI spend to do this, and the other thing, this is the type of backing that you would want to put on the charts. Look at this is other people are spending, not much. They're spending on this and they are experimenting on this. So give me this, and the other thing, right? So I just think this is important or not, if not essential.
But Ludo, on the other side, though, I mean, it's not shown that companies are spending in projects. It's shown that a bunch of employees bought monthly subscriptions.
We don't know, right? We don't know. We know that they experimenting. So many productivity tools are being reviewed, and they're giving us a list of most used productivity tools, which is great. And they are also saying at the bottom that they will do more charts and put them out. So this is a place to watch.
Yeah, my question is, what's their base? Their transaction volume is very low, I think, compared to total corporate transaction volume.
Correct.
So the question is, is this meaningful in the grand scheme of things? It's interesting, but I have no sense of, are they heavily skewed toward small businesses versus large businesses, or the other way around? And is this even close to representative of the actual market? It's interesting data they have. They might as well do it. But it'd be nice if they put a couple of qualifiers like, we believe this is representative of X markets kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, this is a good point, Tim.
I'm pretty sure Ramps at small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
That's my assumption. Most of these newer companies are after SMBs. And so that's interesting. But again, unclear then how important it is if it's, a lot of small businesses are buying subscriptions to various things. It's an early market. You would kind of expect that, right? So yeah, could be useful if you need some charts and you need some data. Could be useful, but you're kind of hoodwinking people if you aren't careful. And I don't like to hoodwink people.
Yeah, no, you have a point.
I do think, though, if you're the product marketing person, AWS or Anthropic, this is at least data points that you're all getting some share. I think so many announcements of big companies doing X.
Yeah.
And it's so unclear. And we know OpenAI had all the share last year. So it is data point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I sent it to one of our large language model clients this morning. I thought it was interesting. All right, let's give it an important, some interesting data with the caveat that it's aimed at SMBs. Okay. We have an announcement by our friends at Cosign here, Jeannie and Luda. I'm going to give this to you in just a second here. Jeannie's a company out of Y Combinator. And we have their claims, and if they're accurate, that they're 30% on the SWE bench evaluation, and almost 51% on the SWE light are best in class, and I believe that is true. Interesting. What do you think, Luda?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I rated it as optional. It was another vendor talking about a platform for using Gen AI in software engineering. However, I was very impressed. They raised 2.5 million, and they released this model that seemed to be doing really cool. So there's and with some interesting things that they did in architecture and using the long context window and the light. So very interesting, creative way of doing it. And so, but I think for the general audience, it's optional.
So we got an optional here. I thought it was kind of poorly written and made some interesting, wild claims about, simulating the cognition of software programmers.
Right.
What I mean, that's
I-
a big
I
leap
rate it as
from
optional.
doing well on a benchmark.
Yeah, I would rate it as optional. It's if the benchmarks again hold up in practice, in scale, this will be very interesting, and much more important. But right now, this is a product announcement. As you said, their magic dust is that they've trained this on a different set of data. I've said for a long time, training data is really important. So that is legit. The thing I would take issue with is they said, well, we trained it on how software developers actually work. I'm like, good software developers, bad software developers, all software developers? Not clear that's a good idea. Because in fact, by definition, most software developers are average. And I don't think I would want a model that was trained on average software development, given my decades of experience with them. So we'll see. It could still be much better than out of the box LLMs, which is their claim, and their benchmarks show they have some advantage for the moment. But I wouldn't go too far with this without seeing a lot more data.
All right, Tim's worried about embedding mediocrity. We're heading for optional. Any objections? All right, going once, twice.
One point I wanted to add, forgot in my review. I thought that they did a lot of discussion about putting together the context of the software development project. So putting together all kinds of things that a programmer actually knows in his head when he starts collecting the pieces of code that might be used. This is something interesting, and if done well, this can advance the quality of the resulting code. So it's an interesting point.
All right. Optional it is with an interesting picker. All right, we have last article here. We have AI won't give you a sustainable advantage from Harvard Business Review. Put together by the folks at a combination of BCG and an academic. And so basic point is it may amplify your current advantages, but won't give you a sustainable advantage. Tim, what do you think of this?
I agree. We've been saying this from the beginning. This is the problem with the amount of investment going into generative AI right now, is that while it may be incredibly important and transformative technology, Jay Kingley, who you remember, and I, John, wrote an article about this 30 years ago now, saying, the reason people are always disappointed in their investments is they expect to get these incredible returns by being an early mover in a new field or something like that. But if everybody else is doing it, the benefit accrues to the customer, not to the person doing the implementation. You have to do it. It becomes a cost of doing business. When people did the internet, when people did SAP back in the 90s, the first ERP systems, everybody expected these incredible 100, 200, 300% returns. They got 12% because everybody else was doing it. And so it became expected. So it's not that it's not transformative. It's not that it's not important. It's just that the value capture is very difficult for basically ubiquitous technology that everybody has more or less equal access to, like the internet. So you can't use the internet in and of itself as an advantage. Now you can create advantage by using the internet. You can get some first mover advantage for some period of time, and they acknowledge that. But you can't get a sustainable advantage over a long period of time over water. Basically, something that everybody has and has fairly equal access to.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty poorly reasoned. I mean, competitive advantage never comes from a single factor input. That's obvious as the nose on my face, right? So I thought, you know, it was a poor argument. And then the only data they have in there is they have one, you know, vendor supported thing from Klarna. So there's no case, there's no
Right. I agree. It's an optional. I should have started. It's an optional read from my perspective. I was on the border of important only because even though it's a poorly researched article, the idea is really important, and a lot of people never get this idea. CIOs, CFOs are still fooled by this every day. It just blows my mind that they think they're going to get this enormous advantage in the marketplace by adopting the next shiny bauble, and that's just not true. So the idea is important, but yeah, it's kind of this is not a good Harvard Business School article. Harvard Business Review. This is an average to mediocre Harvard Business Review article.
I agree that the message is hugely important. I see companies actually not thinking the AI strategy doesn't focus on the existing advantage. They just don't kind of think about it, and they start with some simple cost savings things, right? And get really buried in them for a while. And so it's almost a wasted effort. So the message, I think, is really important. Pick the right places, look at your advantage already existing, amplify it with AI. And as Tim said, many people don't think that. So I was certainly bored.
So we need to find a better article, John, but the idea is essential. That
Yeah,
get this out there, that people really have to understand where they're
I was going to say it. The article makes a good point. I'd just like to get to it a lot sooner, given the number of words compared to the depth.
More cases. There's a million cases that you can cite like this. Going back, as I said, all the way back to SAP and before, personal computers. You know, just pick your spot.
The one thing I'll add, I did like towards the end where it starts talking about the advantages you can get from building your business model around generative AI, and sort of that concept of reinvention. But that in itself wasn't enough to really.
Well, those who built their businesses around the internet in the early 2000s did very well. Those who were native, whatever you want to call it, and really built their entire functional system around the internet did well. And a lot of them made progress against major incumbents as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, even the way competitive advantage is taught at Harvard Business School, it's about an interlocking set of capabilities that create a distinct business system. It's never a single factor. So anyway, I'm going to give this the big O for optional. All right. So I don't have the tote board, but I think we've got Adam's going to decide. Then we've got
3 importance and 2 options.
We've got Thompson for, I think we have as important, Hitchcock as important. Companies go all in on AI. I think we had as important, Genie, optional, AI won't give you new sustainable advantage, optional. All right. Very good. Well, thanks, everybody. I know we're past our half hour here. Appreciate the conversation. Look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Bye-bye now.